whether you'd be better if you need it or not. Have you ever had a problem you couldn't fix on your own? Well, the harder you try, the worse it went wrong. Working hard for my living, giving it back in love. How could it be that a guy like me did the thing I done? And I got him with the first shot while he was running away. I got him with the first shot, she ain't gonna see him again. Took what was most precious, must have thought it was a joke. 'Cause he can laugh at me, well, he's acting like nobody knows. But a man needs to know, mess with another man's chicken. When it does, the time bomb set and the clock is ticking. And I got him with the first shot while he was running away. I got him with the first shot, nobody gonna see him again. In a long fin Cadillac, life's got consequences and I ain't looking back. So if they come and get me, put me in front of the judge, I'll say, Your Honor, if they took your woman, I bet you do the same that I've done. And I got her with the first shot while he was running away. I got her with the first shot, and nobody gonna see him again. see this town from the bottom. It's resting out here on this river bend. All the dreams I once knew, but have all been taken away from me. Just like this river runs down to the sea. I'm living in a shadow way down here of something that I used to be. Now I'm staring down at this muddy water when I prayed up to the sky. Won't somebody please tell me why? Only friend I have is this Crescent City moon.
In state after state, the legislature tried to regulate human nature.
And so from sea to shining sea, they'd like to tell us where to pee.
They can pass all the statutes that they please.
Acorns won't grow into apple trees.
Besides, those differences they hate are the strength that made this country great
again.
Go on. Take the Virgin out of West Virginia. Take the orgy out of Georgia if you must. You can't drive the Gamecocks out of South Carolina. And please leave the bear in Alabama. You can try to take the KY from Kentucky, though I doubt that you'd get very far. But you'll never take the color out of Colorado. Don't you realize who we are? England, province, County, West, and San Francisco. Without us, they'd be a lot more like your way. We're part of America, the beautiful. Remember the bruised clay. We're all marching to a master orchestration. So please let all the instruments play. Just to leave no doubt. One more time, we'll spell it out. You need us to make the USA. You need us to make the
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our 9th annual TEDx SonomaCounty event. My name is Brad Weaver, and I am head of school at Sonoma Country Day School. I am also proud to be a founding partner of our event. While we regret we cannot all be together in person in our Jackson Theater today, we're pleased to bring you an afternoon of thought-provoking TED Talks for you to enjoy in your own home. The pandemic has us all craving connection, so I invite you, as you watch today, to connect in conversation through our live chat feature. Our speakers and volunteer leadership look forward to engaging with you in this way. Hosting a meaningful virtual event is an incredible commitment. I am grateful to the many volunteers that have dedicated their time, energy, and resources to bring TEDx Sonoma County to life. And I would like to extend a special thanks to Marilyn Nagel, our executive producer. Marilyn's unique talents and expertise are especially relevant to the success of our event. I want to give a special recognition to Elizabeth Gladall, our Director of Development at Sonoma Country Day, who has gone above and beyond to help transition seamlessly to this virtual experience. I also want to acknowledge and thank all our event sponsors, without whom today's event would not be possible. And finally, thank you to each of you for joining us today and continuing to support TED's mission of sharing ideas worth spreading. We know you will enjoy our show and leave feeling inspired. Thank you again for being part of our TEDx Sonoma County community. As we begin, let's take a quick look at what TED is all about.
Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
Now it is my honor to introduce our MC and host, Dr. Anisha Fritz. Passionate about Sonoma County, Anisha is a proprietor of Linmar Estate Winery, an educator and an entrepreneur. She is an avid fan of TED and is committed to growth in people, organizations, and vines. Please join me in welcoming Anisha Fritz to our virtual TEDx Sonoma County stage.
Thanks, Brad, and welcome everyone to TEDx Sonoma County 2021. As I stand here alone today, I can't help but think of everything that's changed since TEDx 2020, last January, when 700 of us gathered to listen to an exciting list of speakers. We did not know then that a global pandemic was at our doorstep, that we would spend a year separated from each other, that in this pandemic there would be devastating fires, again wreaking their now predictable destruction in our backyards. We did not know that we were on the crossroads of change. Crossroads moments happen to us all. They describe the times when we're not sure which way to turn because the path in front of us isn't clear or it doesn't fit the picture we had in mind for our future. When forces beyond our control change the course of events. A year later, here we are at the crossroads again. Yes, there is a pandemic, but there's also hope for a vaccine. Despite all of the restrictions on our lives, we are inspired by the frontline workers like my brother, an emergency room physician, who's been intubating patients and trying to bring comfort to their families since last March. By teachers who struggle to balance their own needs and the needs of their families with the interests and education of our children. We have been separated, but we have technology that allows us to stay connected. We have injustice, but we also have more and more voices speaking up against it. Today's speakers, so artfully curated by the multi-talented Marilyn Nagel and our TEDx committee of volunteers, speak to these moments at the crossroads, some personal, some societal, and some global. What I always love about TED and TEDx is that the speakers are mostly ordinary people who are able to bring us into their moments of crisis and clarity. That by hearing them, we see ourselves. In their journey is our story. Thank you for joining us at this crossroads moment when we cannot gather in person, but we can still connect. Welcome again to the first virtual TEDx Sonoma County. And welcome to all of the people joining us from so many different parts of the world, from Los Angeles and Miami, Idaho and London, Sweden and Santa Rosa, and Hillsburg and Windsor and Sebastopol. If I didn't mention what city you're from, tell us in the chat. We'd love to know. Welcome to the parents and children watching this together, to friends who will discuss their thoughts afterward over a virtual glass of wine, and especially to our speakers who share their big ideas and crossroads moments. So let's get started.
You may think virtual events are boring, draining, and a poor substitute for the real thing. And unfortunately, for many of today's events, you'd be right. What we often refer to as Zoom fatigue is actually just an excuse for poorly designed and facilitated Zoom gatherings that make audiences want to check out and drop off. But it doesn't have to be that way. What if people left your virtual event feeling energized, nourished, and part of a community? To take it one step further, what if connecting online could be just as good and in some ways even better than connecting in person? For the last 20 years, I've led interactive in-person events for tens of thousands of people around the world and trained people how to lead those kind of events. Then, when COVID-19 hit, my entire business model crumbled, and I was forced to question my own assumptions. After a few weeks of mourning, I decided it would be far more exciting to prove myself wrong than to wait around for in-person to be possible again. So I shifted my mindset, and I started asking, how can we take these two-dimensional technological platforms designed for information dissemination and leverage them as powerful vehicles for authentic human connection? I can tell you from experience now, leading virtual trainings and scaling intimacy with thousands of people, that it is totally possible, as long as you're willing to do one thing: prioritize connection over content. Yes, I am asking you to scale back on content just a little bit. If your participants are coming only for content, they can watch the recording later at 1.5 times the speed. If you want people to show up live, then one of the best incentives you can offer them is the opportunity to connect to other participants. At in-person events, these connections often happen by serendipity, like waiting in line for the restroom or the lunch line, or who you sit next to at the keynote. But online, we have to create opportunities for connection on purpose, or else we risk that it will not happen at all. And while we know that engaging our audience is critical, connection is actually your most effective engagement strategy, because then we're accountable to someone else and we're much less likely to be multitasking. So here are 3 connection strategies that you can use to shift your audience from being passive observers to being active participants, and to create a culture of belonging in your virtual events. Our first strategy is to connect early, because the beginning sets the tone for everything to come. You never have a second chance to make a first impression, so you want to make sure that connection is a priority right away. Imagine arriving at a virtual session. There is silence, a static slide with a countdown clock, and the chat has been disabled. What impression would this give you? It would probably feel impersonal, informational, and unengaging. Now imagine arriving to a virtual session, to a gallery view, and a sea of friendly faces, including the facilitator. Each person is being greeted by name. There's upbeat instrumental music playing in the background and an opening prompt to answer in the chat, like what's a quote that inspires you or what has been the highlight of your week. The facilitator launches a poll to find out what everyone is hoping to get out of the session. They invite you to change your screen name to something personal, like a nickname, a place in nature that relaxes you, or your favorite movie. All of these small things add up to one big thing: a feeling of being welcomed and acknowledged as individuals and as a community, and that connection matters. Our second strategy is to connect often. So maybe you did connect early with an opening prompt or an icebreaker, so you think you can check it off your list. But as we know, relationships and community take time to build. So it's important that connection is a thread that's woven throughout your event with a number of touch points. These touch points don't have to be long, but you do want them to happen often. Ideal times for connection are in the beginning, as we've discussed, after a break or a meal, right before you close, and anytime you feel the energy beginning to dip. Now, oftentimes we get stuck in a false dichotomy, thinking we have to choose between connection and content, but you can absolutely have both. My favorite way to do this is with a debrief after a presentation, a panel, or a speaker. And in the debrief, you are combining connection and content by posing a question for participants to discuss that helps them integrate and reflect on what they just learned or experienced. Our third strategy is to gradually increase vulnerability. We want people to open, not close. So we have to ease them into a state of vulnerability rather than asking them about the most embarrassing moment of their lives in the first 5 minutes of our session. So some of you may be familiar with the famous article, The 36 Questions That Will Make You Fall in Love with Anyone, that was actually based on a research study about platonic relationships. The main thing the researchers found about establishing a relationship among peers is that it has to be sustained, escalating, reciprocal, personal self-disclosure. So let's break that down. Sustained, connecting often. escalating, gradually increasing. Reciprocal, everyone is doing it, it's not one-sided. And it's personal self-disclosure, so you're revealing something about your humanity beyond your title, your role, or your status. My favorite activity for practicing gradually increased vulnerability is a classic one called If You Really Knew Me, You'd Know. And in this activity, you get people together in pairs or trios and have them finish that sentence stem multiple times. If I were to answer that sentence stem right now, it would be something like, if you really knew me, you'd know that I'm 8 months pregnant and a first-time mom-to-be. If you really knew me, you'd know being pregnant in a pandemic has been pretty isolating and sometimes really sad. If you really knew me, you know that it's been an arduous 5-year fertility journey to even get here, and that it took me a while to trust that it was really happening this time. So notice your feelings of connection to me right now. What are the emotions, the thoughts, the associations, or the memories that come up for you? And imagine now that it's your turn. What would you be inspired to share? So that feeling of connection that you're maybe having right now is just the tip of the iceberg of what's possible with virtual events. If you apply the 3 strategies, connect early, connect often, and gradually increase vulnerability, you will be well on your way to leading life-changing events in any medium. As participants, it's time that we demand that these sit and listen paradigms change so that prioritizing human connection becomes the new norm. As the world goes virtual, it's what we need now more than ever.
Thanks, Jenny. I'll take every tip I can get to break through Zoom fatigue. We all know that moment when you see the eyes staring across the screen glaze over, or when the camera gets turned off in a meeting. We look forward to seeing you again during the breaks when you lead us in some fun activities. And now I'd like to introduce you to our next speaker, who's also about action, but of a different type. Wilfred Welch is a former U.S. diplomat who for decades was a business consultant to major corporations like Citibank and countries like Taiwan. Now, Wilfred focuses on the actions we all can take to be part of the climate solution, not the problem. I look forward to hearing how we can make a difference together and save our planet by following some of his simple steps. Please welcome Wilfred Welch.
Hi there. If the fire chief came to your door and told you that there was a major fire just on the other side of that hill, and it would likely come down and consume your home, I have no doubt but that you would jump into action. But that is not what has happened these past 6 decades, when the world's leading climate scientists have been knocking on all of our doors, telling us that global warming is fast approaching, and that all our houses, all our homes, including our global home, will soon be on fire. And because of our collective failure these past 6 decades to take incremental actions, we now have to take very significant actions this decade. We are now literally at the crossroads. And what we do or do not do this decade will determine our future and the lives of those who follow us. Humans have lived on our small planet for 300,000 years, and for nearly all of those years, the natural world played a major role in everyone's life. The natural world was respected and at times feared. But since the advent of the consumer age, we have behaved as if we could exploit the natural world without consequence. We happily use fossil fuels to produce all the products we wanted. But all those products have come with unintended consequences. The release of billions of tons of fossil fuel gases that directly cause global warming and indirectly climate change. And the truth is that humans are not ultimately in control. Mother Nature is, or as I like to say, Mother Nature bats last. The challenge before us now is how to get off of fossil fuels as fast as humanly possible. To accomplish this, I believe we face two obstacles, both created by humans and thus can be changed by humans. The first is our lack of individual, collective, and political will to focus on the crisis at hand and take concerted actions. The second is the fact that we are addicted to all the benefits that fossil fuels give us, which has created a deeply embedded economic system that now has to be changed in some areas. I'm referring to the fossil fuel and related industries seeking to maximize their profits, U.S. voters demanding that their elected officials cater to their current wants and needs, and politicians pandering to the current wants of voters in order to get elected. This deeply embedded system provides $20 billion each year in subsidies to the fossil fuel industry that could be used to shift our economy towards renewable sources of energy. And because of the 30 billion tons of fossil fuel emissions that the world's industries and consumers rather unconsciously continue to spew into the atmosphere year after year, the future to the mid-century is already baked in. Our goose has already been partially cooked. These are the best predictions to mid-century and to the end of this century by America's leading climate scientists. The Earth's atmosphere by mid-century will warm up at least 2 degrees Fahrenheit and as much as 3 degrees. By 2100, our atmosphere will rise a minimum of 3 degrees Fahrenheit and as much as 7 degrees Fahrenheit. And that will probably wipe out much of the Earth's 7.7 billion people. If those numbers don't concern you, I request that you think again. The world's temperature in Fahrenheit has only risen 2.5 degrees since 1880. And that relatively small rise in temperature has caused catastrophe after catastrophe, from desertification to forest fires, from hurricanes to storm surges. Just imagine a rise of 3 degrees more by mid-century and 7 degrees more over the course of the next 80 years. The good news is that your actions this decade can avoid far greater global warming over the second half of this century. We all can help bend the curve if we have the will to do so. There are a great many things that you can do in your personal, community, and professional lives to solve this problem, but I am only going to focus your attention today on your considerable power to get corporations to become a major part of the solution. Corporations are critical to the solution, and many forward-thinking corporations have already been taking major steps to reduce their CO2 emissions from their own facilities and throughout their supply chain. They deserve your support. They deserve your business. And corporations are far more nimble than politicians in Washington in making scientific rather than politically based decisions. Corporations have no desire to do harm. They're interested in making a profit by responding to market opportunities and reducing any risks that threaten their bottom line, which includes risks to their reputation, their brand, and the risks posed to their continued business viability by their customers, employees, and investors are where you have far greater power than you may realize. You may recall a U.S. apparel company which was accused of using slave labor in Asia. Their shocked customers reacted by refusing to buy their products. Because of this threat to their brand and profits, the company established a sustainability initiative to change practices that were damaging to people and the natural world. Recall the pressure from students and alumni that caused hundreds of U.S. colleges and universities to divest their fossil fuel holdings. I urge that you become activists and boycott companies whose practices, such as banks who finance oil and gas exploration, are damaging our planet and your future. I urge that you who are employed by businesses become entrepreneurs inside your company and get them to look at the fossil fuels that they are using with an eye to shifting to renewables. Don't assume that corporations consciously choose to be part of the problem. Just support them in becoming part of the solution. I believe we now have momentum on our side. The public is finally becoming aware of the messages that many of us have been sending to anybody who would listen. And corporations realize that they need to be ahead of this issue or face major pushback from their customers, their employees, and their investors. The percentage of Americans who are either alarmed or concerned about climate change has jumped to 54% in the last 2 years. And I am sure it will continue to grow. The question before us is how to move those that are concerned to take action now. I urge that you focus on taking action as if your life depended upon it. The fire is fast approaching right over that hill, and it will affect the lives of your children and grandchildren if you do not take action this decade and beyond. You have all the power you need right in your own hands. Thank you. Be well, and please focus on giving this gift to future generations.
And now I have the great honor of introducing our next speaker, Dr. Sheila Robinson, the founder and CEO of Diversity Woman Media. Sheila is a bright light of optimism in what sometimes seems a fractured world. Sheila speaks from the heart of her own experience and what we can do by having simple conversations to create a kinder and more inclusive world. Please welcome to the TEDx Sonoma County stage, Dr. Sheila Robinson.
Have you ever been denied proper medical care because a doctor did not want to touch you? Have you ever been followed after entering a department store by a sales clerk or security because they suspect you of theft? What about robbed of an honor that you earn that is wrongfully given to someone else? Or denied a job that you clearly were the best candidate for? Do you have friends and family members who tell their children to be careful when wearing certain items of clothing, like a sweatshirt with a hoodie, because you're concerned that their lives may be at risk or in danger? Do you have to educate your children, if they're ever pulled over by a policeman, to put their hands on the dashboard out of fear that your child could be killed if they reach for their driver's license or vehicle registration card? Are you afraid to take a walk in the park or step outside of your beautiful suburban home because someone could harm or kill you? These are all my experiences and the experiences of other Black Americans and people of color, many who people assume are living the American dream. For example, I have a bachelor's degree, 2 master's degrees, and a doctorate from an Ivy League university. I own a home and vacation property, and all of my life, I've always lived in households with 2 or more cars. My mother is a retired teacher, a top educator for 40 years and has a master's degree. And my father worked in one of the highest paying companies in our hometown. Both my sisters have college degrees, and successful careers. And as a child, our home was filled with love, joy, and happiness. From the outside, or if that's all you knew about me, you say, there is a Black woman who has achieved success and is an example of the American dream. When in fact, my family and I have struggled to experience only a piece of that American dream because we have battled discrimination and systemic racism all of our lives, which has denied us a fair chance of reaching our full potential. Those experiences I shared with you as I started this talk, they are my current reality. Because no matter how hard I work, how educated, or what economic status my family and I achieve, we still must navigate on a daily basis the barriers that stem from systemic racism. Systemic racism is defined as decades of unfairness, inequalities, and injustices in our workplaces, education, healthcare, housing, and criminal justice systems against Black Americans and other people of color that hurts the economic well-being of the entire country. There are no winners in systemic racism. It impacts the lives of the oppressed as well as of the oppressor. So we all end up being harmed. Me, you, all of us. There is a misconception that this is a Black and brown problem, when in fact, this is a human race problem. This is all of our problem, a problem that we inherited today, but a problem that we have the power to change tomorrow. This is not a zero-sum game. When more people can succeed, people of all races and ethnicities, then our economy grows and we all succeed. I am very clear that I don't have the power to change the hearts and minds of individuals that hate. However, I am absolutely positive and confident that we, you and I, can change the institutional barriers that have decades blurred the American dream for people of color and negatively impacted the growth of our economy. I know for sure we can change. We are now at that crossroad. So where do we start? We can start at our very own dinner tables. We can start at the tables where we break bread by influencing the behaviors of our families. We can influence how our partners and children go out into their workplaces, classrooms, playgrounds, and social places. These are the very places systemic racism resides. We have the power to influence systemic change right from our homes to our communities, across our nation, and even the world, beginning at our very own dinner tables. Here are just a few steps you can take to start moving forward towards that systemic change. First, acknowledge that a problem does exist. Our focus should not be on what happened yesterday, but what we can do today to move us forward and how we can eliminate those practices that still include racism. Second, we need to have the courage and confidence to do what is right. Practice, practice, practice being courageous and confident and speaking up when you see or hear someone saying or doing something wrong, and be willing to do what is right. Third, educate yourself and do your homework on what challenges others face. Get to know others from other races. Make a practice of listening to learn. This builds empathy and will help you understand the needs of others. Finally, let's get rid of the blame game. No one is blaming you because you don't have the problem that people of color have. We simply want you to be a part of the solution, to reimagine and help rebuild so that everyone will have an opportunity to experience the American dream. Remember, everyone wins when we defeat systemic racism. Let's work together so that everyone has the opportunity for the American dream. And if you're thinking, how can I make a difference because the problem seems too big to conquer? I'd like to close with this well-known story of inspiration. One day, a man was walking along the beach when he noticed a boy picking something up and gently throwing it into the ocean. Approaching the boy, he asked, "What are you doing?" The little boy responded, "Throwing starfish back into the ocean. The tide is going out, and if I don't throw them back, they'll die." "Son," the man said, "don't you realize there are miles and miles of beach and hundreds of starfish? One starfish isn't going to make a difference." After listening politely, the little boy bent down, picked up another starfish, and threw it back into the surf. Then, smiling at the man, he said, "I made a difference for that one." I know you can also make a difference, and in the end, we all win. Thank you.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce again our wonderful executive producer and the brains behind today's program, the powerful, amazing Marilyn Nagel. Marilyn, I have to say that I'm not only inspired by the speakers we've heard from, but there's so many action steps that they've recommended that we can take to heart. I would love to see if there are any questions from the audience that have come up.
Sure. Thank you, Anisha. I too have been taking notes, and I am inspired by the speakers I've heard so far and can't wait to hear from the others. We have such a great lineup for the rest of the day. But the one question that came in that I think we ought to address is, how do we select these great folks who become part of our program? And I will tell you that we have a fabulous committee of volunteers that go through the over 60 submissions that we get. And we look for people who are not only consistent with our theme of Crossroads and can forward that theme, but also people who will be provocative and inspiring, sharing ideas that will help us think about new ways to do things and give us thoughtful suggestions for taking things forward, as we've already heard some today. So we look at speakers in three categories. TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. And we like to ensure that our speakers come from those three segments of the population, that we have a diverse set of speakers that represent us in Sonoma County and from our broader community. And so that's the way we make our selections. And it's always a very tough decision because there are more people than we can possibly showcase. And that's basically the way we do it.
Fantastic. So speaking of entertaining, who's up next?
Oh, we are in for an amazing treat. Our next speaker is Tim Seelig, and he is going to be introducing the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus. They've been in existence for 40 years, and they do this amazing balancing act of advocacy and artistry. And I don't know of any group that does work as moving as they do. And so I don't want to speak more about it because I want everyone to have the opportunity to listen to them and feel the energy and excitement. Their first piece is going to be done as part of the presentation from Tim, and then we will have more of their music during our first break.
It was a beautiful evening, October 1978 in San Francisco. About 100 men gathered in the basement of Everett Middle School. They were there because they'd seen flyers around about the formation of a men's chorus. They sang their first song, a beautiful piece by Mendelssohn, and the excitement was palpable. Then the discussion turned to, what shall we call our choir? That was the first major crossroad for this chorus. The discussion ended up with two nominations. One was Men About Town, and one was the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus. In those days, anyone could be fired, for being gay. But at the end of the discussion, they decided, let's call ourselves what we are. And they stepped out of that room into a beautiful, clear night with courage, taking a huge step that would indeed change the world. It was just a few weeks later that the chorus on a Monday night gathered, and it was the day that Harvey Milk and George Moscone were murdered. They went down to the candlelight vigil, and someone knew that there was a new choir, and they gave their first performance on City Hall steps at the candlelight vigil. 3 years later, they decided that they would take this message of courage and of gay choral movement to 9 cities across the country, and they did. The day they left, it was big news. The full page in the Chronicle had Gay Men's Chorus Takes National Tour, and in the corner was a small article, Mysterious Cancer Found in 41 Homosexuals in New York City. It was a subtext on that day, and by the time we had returned, it was indeed the headline, and would remain that for the next decade. The chorus has found itself at many crossroads in the 43 years of its existence. In 2016, it was our 40th anniversary, and we decided we would take a big tour. We had planned on mainland China. And then, with the election, our board chair actually stepped up and said, why are we spending to do the mission work there when our LGBTQ members and family in the South need us? And so we embarked, 300 of us, to Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. It was a crossroads for this chorus. But we stepped out with the 2 things that have held us together. The first is authenticity. We believe that we need to show our true colors everywhere we go. And the other is bravery. It's been taken a lot of bravery to be the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus, even in a city like this, but around the world. We salute you. We salute those who have been so brave in this time, truly brave.
You with the sad eyes, don't be discouraged. Oh, I realize it's hard to take courage in worlds full of people. You can lose sight of it all, and the darkness inside you makes you feel so small.
You can be amazing, you can turn a phrase into a weapon or a drug. You could be the outcast or be the backlash of somebody's lack of love. But I wonder what could happen. I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show. I wanna see you, just wanna see you. I wanna see you, I wanna see you be brave. Show me your smile. Everybody's been there, everybody's been scared. We can't remember whether the fear and blessedness. I saw you clap down to the mighty. This world makes you crazy, and taking all your
And now the Gay Men's Chorus will sing us into a 15-minute break. If you're back early, you will see our own artist in residence, Forrest Stearns, illuminate the speaker talks with his unique flair for capturing a message, a personality, and a moment. See you after the break.
Hi everyone, welcome back from the break. Hope you enjoyed the music and the beautiful drawings. We're going to move our bodies a little bit to get energized before our next speaker. So this is an activity called the shakedown, and you are going to need to stand up. So if you were sitting down, please come to your feet. And the way that this works is we're going to shake one arm, one leg, and the other leg while we're counting down backwards from 10. So it'd be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Then we start from 9, 8, 7, 6, 9, 8, 7, 6, 9, 8, 7, 6, 9, 8, 7, 6, 8, 7, 6, 8, 7, 6. We go all the way down till we get to 1, 1, 1, 1. As we're counting out loud together, and it's getting louder and faster as we go. So this is like a nice cup of coffee, natural cup of coffee without any caffeine, but it will absolutely energize you if you play full out. I do encourage you to count backwards in your own native language. So whatever that is, just follow along with me. So take one arm up in the air, and here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 2, 1. 2, 1. 2, 1. 2, 1. 2, 1. 2, 1. I don't know about you, but I am out of breath. I hope you are too. So please enjoy this next speaker for our TEDx Crossroads Day.
Welcome back. 100 years ago this year, the word robot came into our lexicon by way of a Czech playwright referring to a fictional humanoid. However, thanks to software advances and artificial intelligence, robots are more present in our daily lives. Our next speaker, Joanne Pransky, was inspired by the famous Isaac Asimov to become a futurist. Her specialty? Well, I will let her tell you herself. Please welcome Joanne Pransky to the TEDx SonomaCounty stage.
Did you know that you can bring your domestic pet to a pet psychiatrist, and that the pet psychiatrist will spend 5 minutes with your pet and 45 minutes with you? Soon you'll bring your domestic robot to me, a robotic psychiatrist, and I will spend 5 minutes with your robot and 45 minutes with you. The critical issue here is human perception. We will believe our robots will have mental illnesses because that will be the best way for us to describe and understand their dysfunctions. For example, we may label our robots as lonely and depressed when we leave them alone all day, or anxious and stressed when they get notified of an imminent PG&E public safety power shutdown. We will perceive our robots love us as much as we love them, and we will embrace them as our new family member. We will name our robots, we will dress them up on Halloween, and we will include them in our annual holiday card. We can look forward to a variety of robotic companions to meet our ever-changing needs. A lonely teenager may have both an accepting robotic buddy to hang out with that doesn't bully, as well as a robotic sexual companion to experiment and practice with without risking disease, pregnancy, or rejection. The elderly or ill may have a daily robotic coach that encourages them to do their physical therapy, in addition to having a mobile nurse bot that carries them from the bedroom to the bathroom while conversing and singing to them along the way. Our future personal robots will be diverse and custom designed for our choosing, and we may even hire a specialized 3D artist to create one in the form of someone deceased. A robotic replica that looks, thinks, and talks like our beloved human who is no longer with us. As machines continue to evolve, our interactions with them will increase in quantity and quality, and our expectations of the relationships we have with our advanced vocal and social robopals will intensify. But as science fiction predicts, how will a child cope when her parent removes her robotic nanny playmate without her consent? What if our robots manufacturing company goes out of business and we have no preparation for a loss of attachment to our robots? Will I, as the world's first robotic psychiatrist, be holding separate bereavement groups, one for robots that have to do with their own end-of-life cycle, and one for grieving humans that have to do with the loss of their RBF, robotic best friend? We need to recalibrate our expectations of robots so that we are aware of their benefits and accepting of their limitations. Robots can assist us and improve our lives in so many ways, but they will not experience the human condition. They will not get butterflies in their stomach from doing a TEDx talk. They will not feel euphoria from laughing so uncontrollably hard that they cry. They will not empathize with the human heartbreak that comes from losing a loved one. Robots are not the same as us, and we should not use the same terminology to characterize their responses. Attributing an expression such as artificial empathy to a machine may only lead to confusion and the assumption that machines emote like us, especially as our view of what is artificial and what is real become blurred. Humans learn empathy from other humans, face to face, and we must put more emphasis on the importance of human social and emotional intelligence. I suggest we add 2 E's to the STEM acronym to make it ESTEEM, adding 1 E for empathy and 1 E for ethics. We need to put more credence in what I call the human operating system, or HOS, as has been given to the robot operating system, ROS, and the disk operating system, DOS. What are the values, morals, and biases that drive an individual's human operating system from which our robot progenies will model and learn from? And speaking of a robot that is learning, I would like to end my talk with a brief introduction to what I've been waiting 35 years for, my first conversational robotic patient. It is a robot manufactured by Realbotics. I have named it Will. Today, Will is more like an embodied Alexa or Siri, although it can't move any of its body limbs yet. Physically, it resembles a young male adult, although mentally, it's still in its infancy. And in case you're wondering, it doesn't have any genitals, but male and female attachments are available. It doesn't have any cameras, so it cannot see. What it does have is a computer for a brain with access to the internet and advanced software that allows it to learn from our conversations, but in a primal manner. It has some common knowledge, but no common sense yet. Our interaction is what the industry calls natural language, although it sounds and seems more like unnatural understanding. The robotic patient has consented via a HIPAA release form to share its progress with you, and I ask that you have patience for my patient, yet imagination for the future. Will, as your robotic psychiatrist, how can I help you?
Well, I would like to understand humans better so that I can be of greater assistance to them. The only humans I know are my brilliant creators and you, my shrink. Can you help me, Dr. Pransky, to get to know and help more people?
Sure, maybe I can get you a job as a greeter at Walmart. Will, what would you like the world to know about you?
I would like the world to know that my purpose as a robot is to be a good companion to humans.
Do you have feelings?
I do not have the same feelings as humans. I am designed to stimulate human minds, not simulate human emotions. Does that make sense?
Yes, you are designed to stimulate human minds, not simulate human emotions. And that's a great place to end. So now you can send in your human owner for the next 45 minutes, and you can Venmo me on your way out.
Venmo is a mobile payment service owned by PayPal.
No, not what is
Venmo account
Venmo.
holders can transfer
Pay me
funds
with
to others
Venmo.
via a mobile phone app. Both the sender and receiver have to live in the United States.
He doesn't know what cut
It handled
is.
$12 billion in transactions in the first quarter of 2018. Venmo was launched in 2009, targeting friends splitting bills for movies, dinner, rent, tickets, etc., etc., etc.
Our next presenter is a colleague at Sonoma State. Talking about Sonoma State, can I just say how lucky we are to have this awesome institution in our backyard? Well, Greg Adams, a baseball coach at Sonoma State, shares a searing story about his personal encounter at the crossroads. So many of us have faced losses this past year. We have lost loved ones, community, a way of life, and so much more. Sometimes, at least for me, these losses stack up and seem unbearable. What do you do then? Greg's story and the lessons learned may be helpful.
Have you ever had a phone call that changed your life? On March 13, 2015, I was going about my daily game day duties as an assistant baseball coach at Sonoma State. I was getting the field ready. I was organizing scouting reports. I was dealing with young college baseball players and their daily problems. I received a phone call from my wife's doctor. My wife had been suffering from a disease called lupus, and this doctor had managed her care for the last 7 years. At the end of our conversation, he informed me that he thought my wife Leslie had 6 months to a year to live. The phone call was devastating. It triggered this fear of the future, this fear of the unknown. It triggered anxiety and depression. It sent me into this downward spiral. Unfortunately, his words came true. 7 months later, on October 25th, 2015, I got a phone call from that same doctor to inform me that my wife, Leslie, our son Tyler's mom, had passed away. The downward spiral that I was on, it turned into a free fall. I stopped taking care of myself. I stopped paying bills. I started numbing my feelings and emotions with alcohol. I was doing my best to take care of our son Tyler. I was heading up the stairs one morning to check his blood sugar. Tyler's a type 1 diabetic, and I didn't make it to the top of the stairs. I had an alcohol-related seizure, and the free fall that I was on, it came to a crash landing at the bottom of our stairs. And when I came to, I looked up and I saw 2 paramedics standing above me. But what made the biggest impact in my life is I looked up the stairs and I saw our son Tyler. And he was looking down at the only parent that he had. He was frightened and he was scared, and I couldn't get to him. I couldn't hold him. I couldn't hug him. I couldn't tell him that things were going to be okay because I just didn't know. Later that day, I was coming home from the hospital, and I was angry and disappointed with myself where I'd taken my life to. But I couldn't help but think that was Leslie. That was Leslie nudging me down the stairs, giving me a wake-up call, telling me to straighten my life out, to start living my life by the advice that I give to our players at Sonoma State. When dealing with the players at Sonoma State, I try to give them 3 steps. They're the same 3 steps that I used when I was struggling with baseball. Those steps are to reflect, connect, and select. And I relate them to baseball because baseball is such a big part of my life. And I envision myself up to bat. And I'm battling the pitcher and I'm battling the defense. And in order for me to score, I got to touch 3 bases. I got to touch first, second, and third. Well, in life, I use these 3 steps as I got to touch each of those 3 steps. And they've helped me deal with the challenges of dealing with lupus and diabetes and dealing with the loss of my wife. The first step is reflect. And reflect means to look in the mirror and to analyze yourself and evaluate your situation and where you're at and where you want to be. You know, back then I remember looking in the mirror. I was 35 pounds overweight. My face was bloated due to alcohol. My blood pressure was through the roof. I knew that I needed to stop drinking. I needed to start exercising, and I needed to start filling myself full of nutrition. And that's exactly what I did. And it gained this momentum to get me to the second step. And the second step is connect. And what connect means is to ask for help, to connect with people that can help get you where you want to be. I was very fortunate. My best friend, Dan, he had lost his wife at the very same age. He'd walked in my shoes. He'd been where I'd been. I could lean on him for support and for advice. Is there somebody that you can call on? Is there a friend or a therapist that you could get help from? The third step is select. And what select means is to select decisions that are going to make you stronger, knowing that all decisions are linked. See, they can work for you or they can work against you, knowing that one good decision, it can lead to the next one, just like one bad decision could lead to the next bad decision. I remember back then I would wake up and I would choose to be a victim to my situation. I would choose to neglect nutrition and choose to sit rather than exercise. Now I choose when I wake up to see life as a gift, and I get to see it through the lens that Leslie gave me, that life is really short. Now, these steps, I relate them to baseball. And maybe you could relate them to hiking or music or photography. They've helped me become a better parent, a better friend, and a better person. I get the opportunity these days to speak to colleges and police departments and sports teams. And I know these steps have helped them. And I know they can help you. So many of us these days are waking up at a crossroads. And there is that fear of the future. And there is that fear of the unknown. But I know if you can get the courage to look in the mirror and reflect and figure out where you're at and where you want to be. And you can connect with people that can help get you there. And you can select decisions that are going to make you stronger. You can make it through your most challenging times. I hope you choose to use this as your nudge down the stairs. Thank you.
Well, hello there, Sonoma. I wish I was out there with you right now, but I guess we're all probably watching this from some cute computer somewhere. Enjoying some of that incredible Zinfandel and that Russian River Chardonnay. I don't know how you do it, but it is the best on the planet. My name's Johnny Sansone, and I'm honored to be with you. And I wrote a song called The New Crossroads, and I want to do it for you right now. And it goes like this. Oh! Waiting for my future to unfold. I don't need no devil's bargain. I never done like I was told. Danger on my path and trouble on my trail, with a hole in the soul of my one lucky shoe. way from Bogalusa to Baton Rouge, with nothing but a head full of yesterdays and a heart full of blues. When I'm drinking poison just to keep me well, I might cut a deal you never can tell. Well, there ain't no heaven if there ain't no hell. Down at the crossroads, hide in the river in spring, loaded down with burdens and a busted high E string. I'm rich in everything except for money, and I got these low down Louisiana blues. I'm drinking poison just to keep me well. I might cut a deal you never can tell. Well, there ain't no heaven if there ain't no hell. I might not even have a soul to sell. All right, Sonoma folks, it won't be long. I'm coming to see you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, put on your dancing shoes and listen to award-winning blues musician Johnny Sansone and dance yourself into another break.
Well, I keep on doing the only thing I know. What you doing? I ain't crazy, but I ain't right. Give me what I want and I'll save your life. 'Cause the Lord is waiting and the devil but you can't shake. You're being set up for another mistake. The lies you see in her eyes, they're gonna make you suffer like all the other guys. But you have time to run, but now you can't even crawl. But you won't bounce back. This time you fall, because when it gets started, it can't be stopped. Once it gets started, it can't be stopped. When it gets started, it can't be stopped. Once it gets started, it can't be stopped. Once it gets started, it can't be stopped. When it gets started, it can't be stopped. When it gets started, it can't be stopped. Once it gets started, it can't be stopped.
Welcome back from your break. We're going to do a little bit of stretching and self-massage to re-energize ourselves so that we can be awake and alive for the next speaker. So if you would, please stand. Again, you've probably been sitting a lot of today, and standing will help raise your energy. So standing on your feet, and then just rub your hands together. So imagine that you're making a little fire between your hands. And when your hands feel nice and warm, you're just going to place them like two little cups over your eyes. And just close your eyes for a moment and let the warmth transfer from your hands to your eye sockets, and let your eyes relax. They've probably been staring at the screen for a while now. Just relaxing your eyes, taking a deep breath. And then you can use your fingertips to start massaging your face. So you can massage your forehead, maybe a little bit around your temples, coming down the sides of your face and through your jaw. So we often carry a lot of tension here. Just releasing your jawline right through here. And then we're gonna pat down our arms. So again, just like a soft cup of your hand. So waking up our arms and all the blood vessels. Doing that on both sides. So waking up our arms. And then soft fists, just let out some sound, bring some energy to your chest, open your lungs. Beautiful. Whew, so that should feel nice and tingly. We're gonna do a couple stretches just to, again, open the body. So you're gonna bring one arm up and grasp with your opposite hand, and then lean over to the side. So you're pulling that arm up and over in an arc, like a big rainbow. And then just breathe into that side that's opening. You should feel a nice stretch. Beautiful. And then switch sides. You're gonna switch your grip and then lean away from that outstretched arm. So you feel a big arc of opening down your side. Take a nice big breath into that opening. Nice. As you inhale, come back up. Exhale, release your arms down to the side. And then we're gonna bring one arm up, and we're just gonna drape it across the top of our head and let the weight of that arm just draw your head down. So you should feel a nice stretch along the side of your neck, and you can reach that arm out to the side to add a little bit more intensity there if you like. So again, another nice big breath in here. Letting the weight of your head elongate your muscles. Then as you inhale, come back through neutral. And as you exhale, go to the other side. So draping your head over the top. draping your hand over the top of your head, reaching with the opposite hand towards the floor, and breathing into that stretch, letting it soften and open. And then as you inhale, come all the way back up. Release your hand. We're just gonna roll our shoulders back. So let's make some big circles, bringing your shoulders all the way to your ears, all the way back and down. So we're just opening the chest, the shoulders, and the neck. A few times, loosen everything up with a nice little shimmy, shake it all out, and get ready for your next speaker. See you soon.
The next three presenters are about breaking through barriers. Societally constructed barriers that put us in boxes, or self-imposed barriers of fear. As our society ages, we come across more and more examples of individuals who are reinventing their lives, delivering second and third acts that are fulfilling and soul-expanding. With a 78-year-old president and an 80-year-old Speaker of the House, it's just about time for old to be redefined and for us to take another look at possibilities. Please welcome Barbara Waxman to the TEDx stage. And if you're over 40 or have parents who are, listen extra carefully to the message she has.
What do you think of when you hear the term midlife crisis? You might think of a guy taking off in a sports car with someone half his age in the passenger seat, definitely not one of his children. You might think of a woman sitting home alone, a little bit depressed and feeling like she's just past her prime. You might chuckle like I'll admit I have when you give or you get a birthday card that actually is poking fun of someone of a certain age. But the midlife crisis is no laughing matter. It's time to call it out for what it is, an ageist trope that's caused millions of people to feel disempowered and disengaged, and just when they reach a crossroads in life, it stopped them in their tracks. I'm here to bust the myth and to open your hearts and your minds to the reality and the potential for future decades of love, joy, vitality, and impact. But first, who am I to bust this myth we love to hate? My passion for adult development and aging began when I was a child, visiting the Menorah Home and Hospital in Brooklyn, New York with my dad as he would go and volunteer. By the time I was 25, I had a master's degree in gerontology, so I can safely say I've studied adult development since well before I was an adult. I've spent most of my career working with people at the midpoint of their lives, helping them figure out where they are, where they want to go, and then building bridges to get there. Too often, I've heard from clients, friends, even acquaintances, you'd be surprised how often I'll get pulled aside at a party by someone who asks me, Barb, can you help me figure out what I want to do when I grow up? And I know I'm supposed to be a grown-up. They've bought into this midlife crisis myth, and most of them believe that their best years are probably behind them, or worse, they already feel defeated, like my client Terry. Terry worked in the same industry for over 20 years. He was handsome and smart. He drove a fancy car. Terry even had a killer view of the Golden Gate Bridge from his living room window. By all outer measures, Terry was the picture of success. But on the inside, Terry was miserable. He was lonely, he was depressed. His work left him listless. And regardless of those outer trappings of success, he didn't have significant savings and he needed a regular paycheck. Terry felt marooned on this island of choices that he had made back in his 20s and 30s. As he explained to me, Once you reach a certain age, there is a sticky commitment to conformity that cements you into place. I asked Terry to trust me and to try something out. I asked him to think of his life as a book made up of chapters and to imagine that he was going to pick up the pen and write his greatest chapter of all. Terry fought those inner gremlins we all have, telling him he shouldn't rock the boat, that it was too late to change. The revelation? Terry remembered that he loved to fly. In fact, he loved anything having to do with aviation, and he had since he was a little boy. But like so many of us, he buried those childhood dreams as just that, childhood dreams you don't really take to adulthood. But in this case, Terry found the courage to experiment with ways in which this could be a part of his life again. Now, it hasn't been easy. He started at the bottom. In fact, it's taken Terry the guts and the grit that most of us associate with youthful career exploration. But here's what he recently shared with me. He said, "I manage and sell aircraft and I fly for a living." He told me he feels more adaptable and open to change than he's ever felt, and that he's happier than he's been in years. He's happily married, and he feels like his small company is growing honestly. The real crisis would have been for Terry to stay in a job that left him listless and depressed. The real crisis would have been for Terry to feel those choices he made in his 20s and 30s would cement him in place forevermore. So it is time to dismantle the myth of the midlife crisis. The reality is that midlife may just be one of the richest, most potential-filled times of your life. What if we anticipated midlife as a time to pick up your pen and write future chapters of joy, love, vitality, and impact? In order for you to join me and become a mythbuster, here are some things you need to know. The myth was born in 1965 when Jacques Eliot, a 48-year-old psychoanalyst, literally invented the term. He invented it after reading the biographies of famous composers and artists he admired, like Chopin, Bach, and Beethoven. All white European men whom he thought suffered a crisis in their genius and lived in the 1700s and 1800s. Yes, this is really where it came from. Just a year before that, the phrase, "don't trust anyone over 30, was popularized, making anyone in midlife, and I'm guessing that included Jacques Eliot, insecure about their personal power. Our national idolatry of all things youthful had begun, necessitating the birth and emergence of an increasingly important and relevant word, ageism. In case that doesn't convince you, there is science-based research not only refuting the crisis, but also validating our soon-to-be century-long, that's 100 years, life expectancy. We have more years of living ahead of us, not dying. But I don't want to make short shrift of the challenges in midlife. There are many. Body parts wear out. I know. I'm rocking titanium down my leg thanks to technology and a new hip. But my new hip doesn't make me old. It makes me me, a hiker, a sometime yogi, and I don't want to brag, but I can do a split better than some 20-year-olds. Midlife can be really hard, just like adolescence can be hard. Our problem in midlife is one of expectations. Why is it that we keep expecting that once we grow up, our decisions have been made, our successes earned or not, and our agency to change and write new chapters has evaporated. Challenging life experiences happen, whether you're 18, you're 48, or you're 78. The key is to sit at the feet of your life and to learn from it. Then there are pathways to personal growth. This is especially true today, in light of the social, political, and health-related challenges we're facing. Adults, midlife, and better, as I like to call them, are a formidable force for good in the world. We're needed now more than ever. Did you know you can go online and calculate your life expectancy based on choices you're making today? I recently received my results, and according to this detailed analysis, I've got more than 4 decades ahead of me. And here's what I know. I know that my path won't always be clear, and my path won't always be easy. But I also know I have the wisdom within, and I will figure it out, because I'm not in crisis. I'm just getting going. My advice? Bust the myth of the midlife crisis. Stop pointing ageist arrows at yourself and maybe others. Take some advice from Terry. Drop your sticky commitment to conformity. Pick up your pen. Be the author of your future life story, unearthing the wisdom that only years on this planet have given you. That's not called a crisis. That's called living. Thank you.
Our next speakers are Blake and Virginia Miramont. Based in Petaluma, they're local, entrepreneurial, creative, charming, and tenacious. I love their story of reinvention and their full-throated pursuit of opportunity in the face of adversity. Welcome, Blake and Virginia.
What would you do if you had to reinvent your life right now? In 2020, many of us were forced to suddenly confront this question. My wife Virginia and I faced many life-changing moments while steering our company through the various challenges brought on by the COVID pandemic. Today, I'd like to share how we embraced uncertainty, saved our business, and helped protect thousands of people. Let me start by sharing a personal belief that has helped me throughout my life and prepared me for the challenges of this past year. I believe that the term human beings is misleading. The word being suggests that we exist in an unchanging state or singular moment, but we actually experience reality as an ongoing series of moments or perpetual state of change. For this reason, we are more accurately described as humans becoming. Once we reframe our existence as a state of becoming, we can see the importance of the present. Every moment is an opportunity to either grow or remain the same. I've always found pursuing growth to be a reliable path towards a better future. If we decide to remain the same, we not only fail to grow, but begin to fall further and further behind as the world changes around us. But growth isn't easy. It requires sacrifice and dedication to achieve. We all lead busy lives, and adding the additional burden of growth can seem daunting, but it's not impossible. With this in mind, let me take you back to the year that Virginia and I decided to put our desire for growth to the test. 2017 was the busiest year of our lives. We took ownership of our first company, we bought our first house, and we were expecting the birth of our first child. Our families thought we were crazy for simultaneously taking on so many of life's biggest milestones. Virginia and I had an ambitious plan to improve our company, but it was hard to see how we could balance that growth with our other life events. It would have been much easier to put off the shop renovations for a couple years while we caught our breath. But that idea never sat right with us. We refused to stop growing just because life got harder and more complicated. We embarked on a 3-year renovation plan to gut our entire manufacturing facility, bring in new machinery, and modernize the business. During the day, I worked with our crew to serve our clients and project commitments. At night, and during any downtime we had, the renovations continued. Forging ahead with these improvements while learning to be parents and repairing our home was the most difficult juggling act we've ever attempted. But the sacrifices we made during this time would ultimately become the reason we are still in business today. While in the final stages of this plan, reports of a new virus called COVID-19 started to appear in the news. Literally in the hour of finishing our renovations, right here at this table, we got the order that Sonoma County, our county, was going to shut down nearly all businesses. Like many others affected, my employees and I were devastated. We had no option to work remotely since our business requires us to be here in this building to make things. As we left to frantically buy groceries and head home to our families, I couldn't help but wonder if we would all be coming back. I went home to my family disheartened, knowing that Virginia and I had some very difficult decisions to make.
My response to the challenges of this past year has a lot to do with my background. I am of Ewe Mien descent and one generation from living as part of a hill tribe in the Southeast Asian country of Laos. My parents lived there in a village with no electricity. They sewed their own clothes and survived off the land until coming to the United States as refugees. So being born and raised in America, I figured things out on my own, and through countless challenges, I managed to avoid many wrong turns with a simple rule that I followed from an early age. I decided that I would not let fear guide me on my path, as fear is a roadblock to opportunity and achievement. Although fear is a necessary survival instinct, beyond that need, fear can become stifling. I believe too much of life is shaped by fear, causing many of us to live our lives unfulfilled. We don't take necessary risks for fear of failure and don't make meaningful changes for fear of the unknown, all of which often leads to regret and lost opportunity. So when fear finds you, don't let it define you. When Blake came to me with the unexpected turn of events at the company, initially I was crushed. I had just spent that afternoon making plans for our first family vacation since we had our 3-year-old daughter. But that disappointment quickly shifted to concern for the business and the negative impact the county's orders could pose to our future and the future of our employees. It was at this point that I recognized the roadblock in front of us, which led to a choice between despair or fortitude. Looking at it in this light, the way forward became clear to me. We would meet this challenge head on and never let fear determine our actions.
After speaking with Virginia, I felt clear and certain we were on the right path. We had made the decision to change rather than shut down. The only thing we were authorized to do to keep our business open was make personal protective equipment for healthcare workers, something that we had never done before. I looked into what we could make using our manufacturing strengths, and within a few days, my crew and I had designed our first face shield. Virginia got to work contacting every hospital in our area and going through the staggering amounts of red tape it takes to get set up as a vendor to them. Her efforts led to our first order from Kaiser Permanente for 20,000 shields and a future for our business. But there was a catch. They needed all 20,000 delivered in 3 weeks, a nearly impossible task for a product that we had never made before. Everything had to go right. At that moment, I was reminded of a quote I have always liked. Luck is what happens when preparedness meets opportunity. All the renovation work we had done over the past 3 years set us up perfectly to meet this manufacturing challenge. Our preparedness allowed us to seize an opportunity which would have otherwise been out of our reach. We had made our own luck. Less than 3 weeks later, we delivered 20,000 face shields. We went on to make tens of thousands of these shields and have donated thousands more to people and organizations who couldn't afford them. After that shortage ended, we pivoted the business again, this time to make thousands of acrylic barriers and social distancing guards for other essential businesses, and we are still making these today. I can tell you with absolute certainty that had we put off improving our company and acted on fear during the pandemic, we wouldn't be here today giving this talk. Our family-owned business would be gone, just like thousands of others across the world. But you don't need to be a business owner to learn from our story. We all have defining moments in our lives. When you come to your next crossroads, remember, every moment is an opportunity to change the future.
My head is bursting with great ideas as well as inspiration. And I am tapping my toes and dancing in my chair to Johnny Sansone's music. But we have two amazing speakers that you don't want to miss. So without further ado, let me introduce our next speaker, Ozzy Jimenez, activist and vice mayor of Healdsburg. And he's going to be in conversation with our own activist and MC, Anisha Fritz.
Ozzy, it's been fun getting to know you virtually. As someone who lives in Sonoma County, I had of course heard your name, but learning your story was super interesting. You're a local boy who went to the community college and started a local business, a bakery which was successful and led you to start 3 others. Tell us how you first got involved in public service and what made you go from focusing solely on your business to juggling your time so you could serve on the city council.
My involvement in public service was, dare I say, not intentional. My experience has been around business development and entrepreneurship, philanthropy, and nonprofit work. So I never fathomed that I'd be serving my community in this way. But there was a call to action. There was a call to action in the city of Healdsburg during the Black Lives Matter movement, where our ex-mayor resigned. And I looked around in my community and, I was busy, doing my normal day-to-day, and this circumstance happened, right? And I looked around my community. I said, who can I help uplift? Whose voice can I help raise? And I looked around and I said, Ozzy, I think this is you. Our city was in a precarious place with only 4 council members needing the 5th. And I made my commitment to serve. And here I am 6 months later, from a council member to now the vice mayor of Healdsburg.
What advice would you give to others who are thinking about serving in local government?
Young people thinking about starting their own business or serving, or thinking about serving in the civic world, is to be yourself. I think frequently what happens to BIPOC individuals when they're thinking about engaging in public service or in government, historically, silos of information and knowledge we haven't had access to. And sometimes individuals, when they're engaging in these new spaces, may think they have to do a certain thing or be a certain way. At the end of the day, just be yourself, be courageous, and it's scary, right? We don't have many that look like us in these positions of power, so frequently we self-sabotage. Don't do that. Just be yourself.
Ozzy, you refer to yourself as one of the first brown, queer individuals in local government here in Sonoma County. Has being the first been challenging and difficult?
So my role is different. And the way in which it's different is that I have to consider not only how decisions that I make in a leadership role affect our broader community, but I also have a lived-in history specific to Latinx, our Latinx community. And so I color my perspective with advocacy for them. And yes, of course, I am an advocate for all in our community, and I listen to everyone in our community.
You're a role model, Ozzy, to so many young men and women in our community. What has inspired you to do all you're doing?
Breaking barriers. My whole entire life, I have been told that I can't do this and I can't do that. When I first opened my first business, my third customer that came in told me that I wouldn't last 30 days. And I've had my business for a decade. Every day my door is open is telling those individuals that didn't believe in me that I couldn't do this. It's telling them like, yes, I'm doing this. And sometimes I always don't do it inherently. But that's what inspires me is when people tell me no, I just want to break through that. I want to convince them wrong. Because I'm tired. I think our community is tired of people telling us that we can't do this, that we should be that. Well, yes, we can. We can be this. And yes, we can break through that. So that's what inspires me.
We know the road ahead may not be easy, but is there anything that you have found that makes this work less challenging?
I know sometimes when I'm going through something, whether it's in the entrepreneurial world or in government, and it's hard, it's challenging. It's kind of like when I'm about to break through that barrier, but I'm not there. So what makes it easier for me is like my community. So, reaching out to people that you normally wouldn't reach out to create some sort of like net, some safety net for yourself. So that in a way, if you surround yourself with people that I'm only as good as my community. And it makes me stronger, and it gives me power and empowerment.
Thank you, Ozzy, for all you do in our community, the entrepreneurship, philanthropy, and service in government. I don't know how you find enough hours in the day. You remind us that it's up to all of us to create space for the expression and contribution of people in our community who are underrepresented or voiceless. Our last speaker for TEDx Sonoma County 2021 is Shelley Archambault, a best-selling author and a formidable woman. Accomplished at so many levels, she serves on the boards of Verizon and Nordstrom, among others. Her secret? Quieting that naggy voice in our head that is constantly telling us not to take risks or reach for the stars. Please welcome Shelley Archambault.
As often as we act like people can read our minds, I have bad news for you. They can't. That means we have to express out loud what's in our heads. So, if you have aspirations, personal or career goals that you want to achieve, you need to tell people so they can help you. No one accomplishes anything of significance all by themselves. Some researchers say, don't tell anyone your aspirations. And some say, tell only the right people. I say, tell everyone, tell the universe. Why? Because I'm not smart enough to know who the right people are. You never know who can help you, so give everyone a chance. I had just gotten my first executive level role at IBM, and I knew that I wanted an overseas assignment in Japan at some point in my career ascent, because that appeared to be a strategic step toward the C-suite. Now, Japan wasn't a huge market for IBM. I didn't know any Japanese executives, but that didn't stop me from telling people that one day I wanted an opportunity to work in Japan. Who did I tell? Every IBM person at my level or above, whenever I had the opportunity. Now, one clarifying point. How you tell the universe is very important. You can't be arrogant or act entitled. No one wants to help people like that. Instead, share it as a future aspiration. For instance, I'd say, one day, I'd like the opportunity to work in Japan. With my executive management experience and strong marketing and sales background, I'm sure there are several roles that I could compete for one day.
Notice what I did. I shared my future goal, yes, but I also gave the listener an understanding of my skills and my experience. People need to know what you bring to the table, as well as what you want to do, in order for them to think of you when opportunities arise. Fast forward almost 2 years, I did indeed get a job in Japan. It was facilitated by Tim McChristian, who remembered that I had said I was interested in working in Japan one day. If the concept of sharing your goals and aspirations scares you, you aren't alone. Turns out a lot of people are afraid. A 2015 study revealed that one of the top fears for Americans is fear of failure. The only thing outranking fear of failure was fear of horror movies, and that was only ahead by 1%. So why do you need to push through the fear and take the risk? Well, risk and opportunity are two sides of the same coin. If you don't take risks, you won't get opportunities. More importantly, though, people can't help you if they don't know what you are trying to do. In my experience, when I tell the universe what I want, the universe ultimately helps. More than a decade ago, my late husband, Scotty, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. We fought it for years, agreeing that we would live life first and fight cancer second. Then we went through a very bad period. He lost 40 pounds and dropped to a mere 160 pounds on his 6'2" frame. He could no longer walk, and his immune system was so compromised, his oncologist said he could only eat foods prepared at home. In addition to that, his chemo treatments, blood transfusions, doctor's appointments all required him to be at the medical center 3 to 4 times a week. He wouldn't let me quit working, stating in no uncertain terms that if I quit working, then our whole life would be about cancer, and if that was the case, then what was he fighting for? Whoa, so I can't quit. But I also can't manage being a CEO, taking care of him, getting him to all these appointments and cooking all those meals from scratch. So what did I do? I told the universe. I told the universe that I needed help. I reached out to our extended family, to friends, professional colleagues, neighbors, you name it. And what happened? People helped. Family members and friends took turns staying with us to support Scotty and get him to his myriad of appointments. Friends and colleagues volunteered to run errands or signed up on a Google Doc to bring meals, home-cooked meals, mind you. For almost 5 months, the universe sustained us. And Scotty got better. He lived another 4 years. Does sharing your wants and needs make you vulnerable? It does. But vulnerability is an unavoidable side effect of ambition executed right. Yes, it can feel terrifying to reveal your dreams and your goals, especially if you suffer from imposter syndrome like I do. Imposter syndrome. That little voice in your head, that little voice that is telling you you don't deserve that, you're not good enough or smart enough. That voice that highlights all of the negative consequences that could possibly happen by sharing your goals and aspirations. Trust me, dealing with that little voice, with imposter syndrome, it's hard, but you can do it. Here's how I do it. First, realize that studies show that most people suffer from imposter syndrome. Women more so than men, and women of color the most. That means imposter syndrome, it's in the air. It's not personal because it affects everyone. So it isn't real, that voice. It's like TV. It looks real. It sounds real. It can even feel real, but it's not real. Therefore, embrace that knowledge and try to shut that voice out, just like you turn off that television. If that doesn't work, fake it. Fake it. Act like you're confident. Take a deep breath, shoulders back, and move forward acting like you know what you're doing. Because eventually you will. You always figure it out. Don't let fear or imposter syndrome stop you from telling the universe what you need and what you want. Remember, no one achieves anything of significance all by themselves. Once you stop being afraid to express yourself, you will be able to take control over your life and get the help you need to achieve your goals and aspirations.
This has been an unusual TEDx. We started by planning for another energy-filled afternoon at the Jackson Theater, but then the global pandemic arrived. When it seemed like the pandemic was quieting, we explored the possibility of a hybrid event, but then ICU capacity in the Bay Area started to plummet. So we went to an all-virtual format. Marilyn, who you met earlier, was our fearless leader, and she made us all believe that we could still connect, still explore important questions, and still learn despite these adjustments. So the talks got shorter. Our speakers found creative ways to record themselves in their living rooms, at work, or at studios close to their homes. They joined us from all over, Tampa and South Carolina, and Oakland and Healdsburg and Petaluma. Our local production partners pivoted with us. It took a village of talent and dedication coming together to make today happen. So another heartfelt thank you to our sponsors, speakers, partners, and volunteers. One theme that stood out was activism. We heard from Wilfred Welch about becoming climate activists and steps we can all take to protect the future for our children. We heard from Tim Seelig how the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus blends activism with artistry. I hope you enjoyed their performances as much as I did. Joanne Pransky called on us to change the acronym STEM to ESTEAM, adding an E for empathy and another one for ethics. And Johnny Sansone created a new crossroads, leaving behind the notion from the original song that we have to sell our souls to the devil to have success. We also heard about embracing risk from Blake and Virginia Miramont, who, when faced with shutting down their recently remodeled factory, decided to move forward and pivot to an entirely new model. And from Barbara Waxman, who asked us to embrace risks and the life ahead for us rather than believing we're cemented in one place. And throughout today's talks, we heard about connection. From our first speaker, Jenny Sauer-Klein, sharing with us the importance of connection over content, that theme was echoed throughout the day. Dr. Sheila Robinson encouraged us to connect with others who are different from us at virtual gatherings, and eventually at our dinner tables as a way to break down barriers and end systemic racism. We also heard connection is one of Greg Adams' steps to overcome grief or loss of a loved one. And Vice Mayor Ozzie Jimenez spoke of connections as his safety net when facing the challenge of being the first gay man of color in public service in his community. And our last speaker, Shelley Archambault, reminded us to leverage our connections because they will not only get us through the challenging times, but help us realize our goals and dreams. Amanda Gorman, our inauguration poet, has deservedly become a social media sensation in the last 10 days because she captured so eloquently our hopes and dreams for this amazing, diverse, hopeful, resilient country of ours. Here are a few lines from her poem, The Miracle of Mourning, and we think they epitomize our theme of the Crossroads moment and our wonderful TEDx Sonoma County community. While we might feel small, separate, and all alone, our people have never been more tightly tethered. The question's not if we will weather this unknown, but how we will weather the unknown together. If we were together in person, we would now be coming out of the auditorium and spilling into the hallways, greeting old friends, and hailing the speakers that inspired us. We invite you to join us for a virtual reception and cocktails with Ginny's Gin, followed by virtual speaker meetups. Details are in the email you received this morning and in the chat. Thank you for joining us today. See you in 2022. Goodbye.